ChatGPT said. Amina's life had changed in ways she never imagined. From the quiet woman who cleaned floors to the confident interpreter standing beside one of the city's most powerful millionaires. Her journey was a story of courage, hope, and quiet strength. But the real transformation was not just in her role or salary, it was in the respect she earned and the difference she made around her. After the big event where she impressed so many important guests, Amina found her days full of new responsibilities. She was no longer only translating letters or meetings. She was now part of important decisions. Victoria trusted her more than ever and often asked for her advice on delicate matters, especially when language or culture could cause confusion. Amina took this trust seriously. She studied harder than ever, learning about business, politics, and history. She understood that her role was about more than words. It was about building bridges between people from different worlds. Back home in her small apartment, Amina often thought about the journey she had taken. She remembered the nights in Cameroon when she sat by candlelight, practicing new words, dreaming of a better life. Those dreams had not changed. They had only grown stronger. Amina's family was proud of her. She sent money to help her younger siblings with school fees, and she called her mother often. The woman who had worked so hard to raise her with kindness and wisdom was now a source of strength for Amina. Their love crossed miles and time zones, reminding Amina that no matter where she went, her roots were deep and strong. At the Lancaster penthouse, the atmosphere began to change. Victoria, inspired by Amina's courage and kindness, started treating her staff differently. She listened more, gave credit where it was due, and created a workplace where respect was shared by all. Other staff members saw the change too. They began to work together, sharing knowledge and helping each other. Amina became a leader, not because she demanded it, but because she earned it with her quiet confidence and willingness to help. One day, Victoria surprised Amina by inviting her to a special meeting with her business partners. "I want you to hear this," she said. "You have come so far, and I want you to know that you belong here." The meeting was intense, with strong opinions and serious discussions. Amina listened carefully and translated with skill and grace. When she spoke, her voice was steady and sure. The partners respected her. She was no longer just an interpreter, she was a part of the team. After the meeting, Victoria pulled Amina aside. "You have changed my life," she said softly. "I never imagined that a cleaner could teach me so much about strength and respect." "You have opened my eyes," Amina smiled, feeling grateful but humble. "I have learned from you too," she replied. "It is not just about where we come from, but where we are going." As time passed, Amina continued to grow. She took courses online, learned new languages, and helped others in her community. She became a symbol of hope for many who believed that their dreams were out of reach. Her story spread quietly. Friends, neighbors, and even strangers admired her courage. They saw that with hard work and kindness, it was possible to change not only one's own life, but also the lives of those around them. Victoria and Amina's relationship grew into a true friendship. They shared stories, hopes, and fears. Victoria learned to listen, and Amina learned to trust. Together they showed that respect and understanding could cross all boundaries. One evening, as they sat together looking out over the city, Victoria said, "I am proud of you, Amina. You have taught me what it means to be truly strong." Amina replied, "And you have taught me that kindness can change even the hardest hearts." Their journey was a reminder to everyone that life's greatest treasures were not money or power, but the courage to believe in oneself and the kindness to believe in others. Amina's story did not end there. It was only the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with hope, learning, and the promise of a better tomorrow. And as the city lights shone brightly below, Amina knew that she was exactly where she was meant to be. ChatGPT said Amina's life had changed in ways she never imagined. From the quiet woman who cleaned floors to the confident interpreter standing beside one of the city's most powerful millionaires, her journey was a story of courage, hope, and quiet strength. But the real transformation was not just in her role or salary. It was in the respect she earned and the difference she made around her. After the big event where she impressed so many important guests, Amina found her days full of new responsibilities. She was no longer only translating letters or meetings. She was now part of important decisions. Victoria trusted her more than ever and often asked for her advice on delicate matters, especially when language or culture could cause confusion. Amina took this trust seriously. She studied harder than ever, learning about business, politics, and history. She understood that her role was about more than words. It was about building bridges between people from different worlds. Back home in her small apartment, Amina often thought about the journey she had taken. She remembered the nights in Cameroon when she sat by candlelight, practicing new words, dreaming of a better life. Those dreams had not changed. They had only grown stronger. Amina's family was proud of her. She sent money to help her younger siblings with school fees, and she called her mother often. The woman who had worked so hard to raise her with kindness and wisdom was now a source of strength for Amina. Their love crossed miles and time zones, reminding Amina that no matter where she went, her roots were deep and strong. At the Lancaster penthouse, the atmosphere began to change. Victoria, inspired by Amina's courage and kindness, started treating her staff differently. She listened more, gave credit where it was due, and created a workplace where respect was shared by all. Other staff members saw the change too, began to work together, sharing knowledge and helping each other. Amina became a leader, not because she demanded it, but because she earned it with her quiet confidence and willingness to help. One day, Victoria surprised Amina by inviting her to a special meeting with her business partners. "I want you to hear this," she said. "You have come so far, and I want you to know that you belong here." The meeting was intense, with strong opinions and serious discussions. Amina listened carefully and translated with skill and grace. When she spoke, her voice was steady and sure. The partners respected her. She was no longer just an interpreter. She was a part of the team. After the meeting, Victoria pulled Amina aside. "You have changed my life," she said softly. "I never imagined that a cleaner could teach me so much about strength and respect. You have opened my eyes." Amina smiled, feeling grateful but humble. "I have learned from you too," she replied. "It is not just about where we come from, but where we are going." As time passed, Amina continued to grow. She took courses online, learned new languages, and helped others in her community. She became a symbol of hope for many who believed that their dreams were out of reach. Her story spread quietly. Friends, neighbors, and even strangers admired her courage. They saw that with hard work and kindness, it was possible to change not only one's own life, but also the lives of those around them. Victoria and Amina's relationship grew into a true friendship. They shared stories, hopes, and fears. Victoria learned to listen, and Amina learned to trust. Together, they showed that respect and understanding could cross all boundaries. One evening, as they sat together looking out over the city, Victoria said, "I am proud of you, Amina. You have taught me what it means to be truly strong." Amina replied, "And you have taught me that kindness can change even the hardest hearts." Their journey was a reminder to everyone that life's greatest treasures were not money or power, but the courage to believe in oneself and the kindness to believe in others. Amina's story did not end there. It was only the beginning of a new chapter I filled with hope, learning, and the promise of a better tomorrow. And as the city lights shone brightly below, Amina knew that she was exactly where she was meant to be. Amina had now stepped into a world very different from the one she had known all her life. The penthouse, with its sparkling lights and polished floors, was a place where power and money moved silently behind elegant doors. But to Amina, it was still a world full of questions, challenges, and sometimes fear. Every day was a lesson, and every moment she spent there was a chance to learn more about herself and about the people around her. One morning, as the sun rose over the city, Amina arrived early to the penthouse. She liked to prepare for the day, quietly, before the busy noise of the household began. Today was important. Victoria had asked her to translate an invitation letter for a very special event. The letter was written in French, and it carried a meaning beyond simple words. It was an invitation to a meeting where many important business decisions would be made. Amina carefully unfolded the letter. her fingers trembling slightly. The words were beautiful but tricky. The phrase that had challenged her before was nothing. Compared to this, it was filled with idioms and expressions that needed more than just a direct translation. She needed to find the right balance, to respect the meaning and the tone. She sat by the large window. Looking out over the city, the buildings stood tall, reaching for the sky. She thought about her childhood back in Cameroon, the village where the air was fresh and the nights were filled with the sounds of crickets and gentle winds. How different it was from this high-rise tower filled with glass and steel. Amina had come a long way, but sometimes she still felt the quiet pull of the life she had left behind. She remembered the warm smiles of her family, the small market where she used to help her mother sell vegetables, and the simple joy of learning new words from an old worn book. Those memories gave her strength as she worked on the translation. Amina's mind wandered to the many people she had met since arriving in the city. Some were kind and welcoming, others were cold and distant. In this new world, respect was not given freely. It had to be earned. And Amina knew that her path would not be easy. The phrase she was translating was full of hidden meanings. If she made a mistake, it could cause misunderstandings or even offend the guests. She had to be careful. After many hours of thinking, writing, and erasing, Amina finally found the perfect way to express the words. It was not a word-for-word translation, but captured the spirit and meaning of the original letter. She took a deep breath and read the letter aloud to herself. Her voice was steady and clear. She felt a quiet pride inside. This was more than just a job, it was a way to show that she was capable and deserving of this new life. Later that day, Victoria called Amina into her office. The room was filled with soft light, and the air smelled faintly of jasmine. Victoria looked serious, but not unkind. "I read your translation," Victoria said slowly. "You did well. Very well."
Oh.
She paused, then added, "But there is something else I want to discuss." Amina listened carefully. Victoria explained that she was planning to attend the business meeting herself and wanted Amina to come as her interpreter. It would be the first time Amina would enter that world fully, not just as a helper. "I said as someone important." Amina felt a mix of excitement and fear. The meeting would be filled with powerful people, dressed in sharp suits and speaking quickly. She wondered if she was ready, but she also knew this was a chance she could not miss. "I will do my best," Amina said quietly. The days before the meeting were filled with preparation. Kamina spent hours studying the latest news, learning new vocabulary, and practicing how to speak clearly and confidently. She talked with Julian, who shared his own experiences and helped her improve. One afternoon, Amina went to a quiet cafe near the library. She sat with a notebook and a cup of tea, reviewing notes and repeating phrases. The cafe was full of people from all walks of life: students, workers, and business people. Amina liked to watch them and learn from their conversations. While she practiced, a young woman approached her. "Excuse me," she said politely. "I couldn't help but notice you speaking French so well. Are you learning?" Amina smiled and nodded. "Yes, I am." The woman introduced herself as Marie, a student studying languages at the university. She and Amina talked for a while, sharing stories about their love for words and learning. Marie invited Amina to join a language club that met weekly to practice speaking different languages. Amina felt happy. For the first time, she was making friends outside of her work. These moments were important. They gave her hope and reminded her that learning was a lifelong journey. As the day of the meeting arrived, Amina dressed carefully. She chose a simple but elegant outfit, one that made her feel confident. Victoria arrived with her usual confident smile, ready to face the important guests. The meeting room was large and filled with polished wood tables and comfortable chairs. Important people from different companies gathered around, speaking in many languages. The air was full of ideas, plans, and sometimes disagreements. Amina sat beside Victoria, ready to translate every word. At first, the conversation moved quickly, and some of the language was difficult. But Amina focused, listening carefully and translating clearly. She realized that her role was not just to say the words, but to carry the meaning and tone behind them. During the meeting, an unexpected moment came when one of the guests made a joke in French. The room laughed, but the joke had a hidden meaning that could be misunderstood. Amina had to think fast. She chose her words carefully, making sure the joke was shared in a way that everyone understood without offense. Victoria noticed Amina's quick thinking and nodded with approval. The guests were impressed by the smooth conversation and the ease with which Amina handled the situation. After the meeting, Victoria praised Amina. "You did better than I expected," she said. "You have a gift for this work." Amina smiled, feeling proud but humble. She knew this was only the beginning. There would be more challenges ahead, but she was ready to face them. Back in the penthouse, Amina took a moment to rest. She looked out at the city lights again, thinking about how far she had come. From a small village with few opportunities to a place where she could speak with powerful people and shape important conversations. Her journey was extraordinary, but Amina also knew that she must stay true to herself. She remembered the words of her mother, who had always told her, "Be kind, be strong, and never forget where you come from." The next days brought new surprises. Other staff members began to notice Amina's new role. Some were curious, some were jealous. But Amina focused on her work and kept learning. She wanted to be ready for whatever came next. One afternoon, Victoria invited Amina to a special dinner with some old friends. The guests were rich and famous, used to luxury and power. Amina felt nervous but also excited. During the dinner, a conversation started about languages and culture. Victoria proudly introduced Amina as her interpreter and spoke about her skill and dedication. The guests listened with interest. Amina shared a few words about her love for learning and her journey from Cameroon to the city. Her story touched some of the guests, who admired her courage and determination. By the end of the evening, Amina had gained new respect and new friends. She knew that her life was changing not just because of money or position, but because of the connections she was making. As she walked home that night, Amina felt a deep sense of hope. The road ahead was still long and sometimes hard, but she was not alone. She had found her voice, her strength, and a place where she belonged. And with every new step, she remembered that success was not just about power or money. It was about courage, kindness, and the willingness to keep learning, no matter where life takes you. After Amina surprised everyone at the party with her confident translation, a quiet stillness filled the room. The guests, who had been chatting and laughing moments before, suddenly turned their full attention to her. Even Julian, the personal translator who had been standing nearby, looked both shocked and impressed. No one had expected the family's cleaner to speak so well, let alone handle a tricky French phrase with such skill. Amina felt the weight of all those eyes on her. Her heart was still beating fast, but she kept her calm. She didn't want to let the moment slip away. This was a chance not just to prove herself, but to change how others saw her. For years, she had worked quietly, cleaning rooms and helping the family without much notice. But tonight, she was no longer invisible. Victoria, the millionaire heiress, looked at Amina with a new expression. Gone was the mocking smile. Instead, there was a flicker of respect or maybe surprise in her eyes. Victoria was a woman who had spent her life controlling others. She had never met anyone like Amina before, someone so quiet yet so strong. "Very well," Victoria said slowly, clapping her hands once. "You have impressed us all, Julian, it seems. We have competition." The guests laughed softly, but the laughter was different. Now it held a note of admiration. Amina took a small step back, feeling a mix of relief and pride. But the evening was far from over. Victoria still had something in mind. "Since you have such a talent," Victoria said, turning to Amina, "how about this? I will offer you a new role in my household. It's not just as a cleaner, but as my personal interpreter for French and English. You will be paid well, and your work will be noticed." "Hey, what do you say?" The room gasped quietly. For Amina, this was a moment she had dreamed of, but never dared to speak about. She looked at Victoria, then at the guests. This was an offer unlike any other. It meant respect, opportunity, and a chance to grow. I would be honored, Amina said softly, bowing her head. Her voice held a quiet strength that made everyone listen closely. Victoria nodded, pleased with the answer. Liked power, yes, but she also liked control. Offering Amina this position gave her both. She could now have someone skilled who owed her loyalty. The guests whispered again, sensing a new story unfolding. Later, as the party continued, Amina found herself talking with Julian. He was surprised, but kind. "I never knew you spoke French so well," he said with a smile. "You have a gift," Amina smiled back, feeling happy but cautious. She knew that this new role would bring challenges. She would have to prove herself every day. But it was also a chance to learn, to be seen for who she really was. The memory of her childhood came back to her as they spoke. Growing up in a small village in Cameroon, Amina had learned French and English by listening to people and reading books whenever she could. Her family was poor, and there were few schools nearby, but she was determined. She wanted a better life, not just for herself, but for her younger brothers and sisters. She remembered sitting under a tree with a worn-out dictionary, practicing new words and dreaming of faraway places. When she first came to the city years ago, she took a cleaning job in a big house. It was hard work, and the people treated her like she was invisible. But she kept her dreams alive in her heart. She worked hard, learned quietly, and never gave up hope. Now, standing in the penthouse surrounded by elegant guests, Amina felt those dreams growing closer. She wasn't just a cleaner anymore. She was someone with a future. As the night grew late, Victoria pulled Amina aside. "You did well," she said quietly. "But remember, this world is not kind to those who don't know their place. Be careful." Nodded, understanding the warning. She knew this new path would not be easy. There would be people who doubted her, who wanted to keep her in the background. But she was ready. She had a strength inside that no one could take away. The next day, Amina began her new role. She worked closely with Victoria, translating letters and messages, attending meetings, and sometimes speaking on Victoria's behalf. It was a steep learning curve, but Amina loved the challenge. Every day she learned something new about the city, the business world, and the people around her. Some staff whispered behind her back, surprised by the change. They had known Amina as the quiet cleaner, and now she was a respected interpreter. But Amina ignored the gossip. She focused on her work, her books, and her dreams. One afternoon, Julian invited Amina to a local library. "If you want to improve your skills, this is the best place," he said kindly. Amina's eyes lit up. She had always loved books, and now she could learn more freely. At the library, Amina found books in many languages. She borrowed French novels, English poems, and dictionaries. She spent hours reading, writing notes, and practicing her pronunciation. It was a new world opening for her, and she embraced it with joy. Meanwhile, Victoria watched from her office. She was proud in a strange way. She had given Amina a chance, but she also knew that she had created a new challenge for herself. Amina was no longer just a helper. She was becoming someone who could think, speak, and influence. One day, a business guest arrived from Paris. He spoke only French and expected Victoria to understand everything. Victoria called Amina. "This is your moment," she said with a small smile. "Show them what you can do." Amina met the guest with calm confidence. She translated conversations with ease and grace. The guest was impressed by her professionalism and skill. Victoria's guests began to see Amina as more than just a cleaner. They saw her as a valuable part of the household. That evening, Victoria and Amina sat together in the quiet of the penthouse. The city lights sparkled below like stars. Victoria said, "You have changed a lot in a short time." "I admit, I did not expect this." Amina smiled softly. "Neither did I," she replied. "But I believe everyone has a chance to grow, if given the chance." Victoria nodded slowly. "Perhaps I underestimated you." Amina looked out the window, thinking about the long road she had traveled. From a small village in Cameroon to the penthouse. In the big city, she had worked hard and stayed true to her dreams. She knew that there would be more challenges ahead, but for the first time, she felt ready to face them. As the days passed, Amina's new role became more important. She helped Victoria with letters, meetings, and sometimes even gave advice. The other staff began to respect her more. Some even asked for her help with their own language problems. One evening, as Amina finished cleaning after the party, she found a small note on her cleaning cart. It was from Victoria. The note said simply, "Thank you for being brave. You are more than I expected." Amina folded the note carefully and put it in her pocket. It was a small gesture, but it meant a lot. She knew that her life was changing. She had moved from the shadows into the light. And though the path was still uncertain, she was no longer afraid. With each step, Amina grew stronger and more confident. She had learned that sometimes the greatest strength comes from quiet courage and a heart full of hope. Victoria Lancaster was a woman who lived in a world of wealth and power. She was known in her city as a millionaire heiress who had everything money could buy. She lived in a tall glass building in the center of town, in a beautiful penthouse that looked out over the whole city. Her parties were famous. People from all over wanted to be invited, even if only for a little while. But Victoria was not the kind of person who shared her wealth kindly. She enjoyed showing off her money, and sometimes she enjoyed making others feel small. One evening, Victoria decided to host a private party for a few close friends and business partners. The penthouse was decorated with bright lights and beautiful flowers. The music played softly in the background. Waiters moved around with drinks and food, making sure everyone was comfortable. The guests were dressed in their finest clothes. Laughing and talking about the newest business deals or the latest fashion trends, Victoria stood near the window. Watching the city lights sparkle below, she felt proud of herself and all she had achieved. She loved being the center of attention. And at the party, she got exactly that. Her smile was wide and confident. But underneath her charm, she was sharp and careful. She liked to test people, to see who could impress her or who might be useful. Tonight, she had a plan. Victoria called her personal translator, a young man named Julian, to her side. Julian was polite and well-trained. His job was to help her talk with foreign guests, especially those who spoke French or other languages. He had worked with her for a long time, but Victoria often found ways to remind him that she was in charge. "Julian," Victoria said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, "I have a little challenge for you. There's a phrase in French that I want you to translate perfectly into English. If you do, you will keep your salary for this month. If you fail, I want you to hand over your salary to me." Julian looked surprised. This was not a usual request. The guests nearby stopped to listen, curious about what was happening. Victoria loved moments like this. She enjoyed watching people try to meet her demands, especially when the task was difficult. But then, Victoria's eyes caught sight of someone in the corner of the room. Amina Davis was quietly cleaning. Amina was the family's cleaner, a woman who had worked for the Lancaster family for many years. She was soft-spoken and calm. No one paid much attention to her during these parties because she stayed in the background. But Victoria noticed her. Amina was not like the other staff. She had a secret. She loved languages. When she worked, she often hummed songs in different languages. Sometimes she read books in French and English, even though she was not asked to. She wanted to learn, to understand more about the world beyond her small neighborhood. But she never spoke about it. It was her quiet passion. Victoria smirked. She thought it was funny to tease someone like Amina, so she called her over. "Amina," Victoria said loudly enough for the guests to hear, "you look like you know a thing or two about languages. Here's a little test for you. If you can translate this phrase from French to English better than Julian, I will double your pay. What do you say?" Amina froze for a moment. The room was silent, all eyes on her. She was not used to being the center of attention. She felt nervous, but also curious. She looked at Victoria, and then at the note in her hand where the French phrase was written. The guests smiled or whispered quietly. Some thought this was just another way for Victoria to make fun of her. Julian stepped back, unsure what to do. Victoria's challenge was clear, but no one expected Amina to answer. Amina's heart beat fast. She remembered her childhood in Cameroon, where she had first heard French. She thought of the times she helped neighbors translate words or teach their children. She wanted to show that she was more than just a cleaner. But she also knew this was risky. Amina took a deep breath and nodded. "I will try," she said softly. The room watched as she moved toward Victoria, the note still folded. In the millionaire's hand, as Amina unfolded the paper, she felt all the eyes on her. The phrase was not simple. It had a meaning that was not easy to translate word for word. It was an idiom, a saying with a hidden message. If Amina translated it literally, it would sound strange and could even offend Victoria. But if she translated it with the right meaning, she would need to be clever and careful. She closed her eyes for a second and thought about the words. Memories came back to her, the evenings she spent reading by candlelight, kind teachers who encouraged her to learn, and the hope she had for a better life. She was not just a cleaner. She was a learner and a thinker. The guests were whispering now, some with surprise, some with doubt. Victoria's smile was still confident, but curious. She did not expect Amina to speak well. She thought this was just a game. Amina began to speak slowly, her voice soft but clear. She chose her words carefully, not just to translate the phrase, but to carry its true meaning. Her heart was pounding, but she did not stop. The room listened quietly. Some guests leaned forward, even Julian, the translator, stopped to hear her. For a moment, Amina was not just a cleaner or a servant. She was someone who had knowledge, wisdom, and courage. When Amina finished her translation, there was a silence. That felt like a held breath. Victoria looked at her closely, her smile gone for a moment. The guests exchanged glances, surprised by the skill and meaning behind Amina's words. Amina felt a small, quiet pride. She had taken a chance, and it was working. She had spoken not only with language, but with respect and intelligence. The night had changed in that moment. Victoria's challenge was no longer a joke. Amina's place in the room had shifted. The rest of the party seemed different now. People looked at Amina with new eyes. Victoria's confidence was tested. The millionaire who loved power was met with quiet strength. This was only the beginning. What happened next would surprise everyone.